Let's Indie 5, shall we not? Today, first albums, first three releases actually, we're gonna present here you today are from Transcending Obscurity Records from India, an extreme metal label focused on many different countries around the world. Many of them bands being, from Asia, Oceania, and whatnot. But the first one today is actually from Spain, called Come Back from the Dead. And this is Caro data Vermibus. Probably some Latin I don't just understand. Despite being a Spanish release, this 4-track mini CD is actually very Swedish sounding death metal. And let's take a look on the cover once more. As you can see, pretty Cthulhu-like of an image. I don't know about you guys, but looking really nice. And there's not a booklet, but kind of a just piece of a cardboard here. No, it's actually a booklet, just kidding. Cardboardish booklet here, which once again features some great art here, as you can see. Really detailed stuff, and then some lyrics. Always a nice design by Transcending Obscurity. But what about the music is the question that everybody keeps asking. Well, first of all, this is Swedish type of death metal coming from Spain. Now, very old school, even though this is a kind of a modern band, this band could be just one of the many from people like Rauta Johansson or others, long-time members of the Swedish scene. Everything from sound to the riffs to general output by the band is something that you probably heard a million times before. It's not so much a new thing with this one. They are basically doing very good copycat work, but not creating kind of a new stuff as such. This is kind of a tricky release. On the other hand, it's easy to like, easy to listen, easy to just, enjoy. But will it actually do anything for the genre, Swedish death metal subgenre? Not exactly. Nice addition if you're a huge fan of that kind of stuff. But if not, well, just go back to your Entomb, Dismember, Carnage, Grave, and whatnot. This is nothing new there as such. Our next up is in Australia by a band called Greytomb, and their album called Monumental Microcosm. This looks like a mini CD, 3 tracks, but it's actually so full of lengthy tracks that it's actually just full-length album. This album started kind of like a solo project as far as I get to know the band, but it's kind of evolved or changed to a black metal band, and as such kind of a third wave, modern wave of dissonant stuff, mostly slow tempo, but there are kind of faster bursts and those kind of dissonant riffing, which creates or takes it to a kind of atmospheric level. Not so riff oriented as such, but kind of a nice in creating this dark, a little bit sinister feeling there. And it's a little bit rawish. I mean, the overall feeling is quite nice, but it's also that the band is like, where should we going with this? I mean, there are clean parts, there's spoken parts, screamy parts, growly parts, just a little bit of everything, but not focus enough on everything. And once again, let's take a look at this band. It seems that the main guy is in the center, like, hey, let's crash the cosmos and whatnot. And these guys are like, yeah, I just play in the band. And this guy's like, hey, I'm just a driver. Don't put me into that picture. Just kidding. Greytomb is kind of a atmospheric stuff, or kind of Icelandic dissonant stuff. If you're into that stuff, definitely worth listening to. But a little bit unhoned, unpolished release as such. Kind of like it, but no cigar. It's not that good album. Well, next up is in Belgium. This band is called Marginal, and the album is obviously Total Destruction. Marginal has been there before with its kind of a full of attitude type of ass-kicking, grind, crust. Death metal is hybrid, and on attitude-wise, well, full point to this band. Very kind of a violent, aggressive, fast-paced, full of hate, it seems. But the previous album wasn't that good, to be honest. Now Marginal has stepped up, and this album is way better than before. Now the music is once again a combination of this kind of a crust-infused grindcore-ish death metal or death grind, whatever, and really heavy production, really top-notch death metal sound. And now we have stopped here for a bit. As you can see, this is a Dr. J. Robert Oppenheimer related image about the atom bomb, and there's actually two spoken samples in the album, and they're the kind of spoken parts that you probably have encountered before. They are nothing new here, but I mean they still have the point, so kind of fitting to have them here with the image included. So about the music, well, like I said, this is a kind of a combination of crust, grindcore, and death metal, reminding me a little bit of Napalm Death, but it's not like this is a copycat thing. Lots of kind of a good energy here, and attitude, and kind of a middle finger stuff here. I mean, kind of a hardcore-ish in so many ways. Well, which is obviously related to this crust side here, and all those growing vocals and those top-notch production makes this album really strong in those aspects. However, there are some weaker moments in the songwriting part, so it's not like this is as catchy or as good as Napalm Death overall, but definitely worth checking into if you are into this kind of genre hybrid. So give it a chance if you think Napalm Death and friends are around your musical neighborhood and whatnot. The next one we have here is a Swedish band called Grafvitnir, Obeisance to a Witch Moon, which is actually their 2016 release. Since then they have released more stuff, but I don't know, this album came already late here, last year, 2018, so already been a 2 years old an album. Don't know exactly why, but hey, this is something released by Carnal Records. The next album we're going to talk about is also an old album, so who knows what goes there. Anyway, this is a very classical approach to Swedish black metal. Fast tempo, melodic, dark, and well, that's all there is to it. Reminding me of bands such as Dissection, Lord Belial, and Sacramentum. So those of you who are familiar with 1990s Swedish black metal style, that approach, well, you're already familiar with this one. So basically no gimmick album, one trick pony, but at least the trick the pony is doing is relatively good. Now this might not be the top-notch AAA kind of a band that is out there in the genre, but at least it's mostly rather good stuff. Basically, the problem with this kind of album is that it's very repetitive. That is, it gets kind of old very soon. Luckily, the album is just mostly quite good, so there are not good reasons to bitch about it, why there is no too much change along the course of this length. Now, production-wise, this is maybe kind of a second class. That is, it could really use a stronger production, and also what bothers me even more is that the kind of a black metal shrieky vocals are a bit off. They're kind of a weird, it's more like kind of a screaming rather than really strong output. That's not a big thing if you are kind of a cool with unusual approach to black metal screaming. Think of like Atlas GCR's styles in Mayhem and all that stuff. If you can handle that kind of stuff, you probably can do with this one as well. But it's not at least a deal breaker in my opinion. Good melodic Swedish black metal, the way it kind of was meant to be, I guess. Also, our last stop is Sweden. This is a band called Omnizide. If the album before this one was rather old, well, this is a bit older. 2014 release by a band called Omnizide. Death Metal Holocaust is a bit misleading title, considering that this is very black metalish as well. Black metal, death metal hybrid, to be exact. And in so many ways, by the way. Let's start with the death metal side here. Now, the guitar sound is something that you might be already familiar with many Swedish bands. Kind of a Sunlight Studio kind of an idea, but not quite. Anyway, more death metalish than typical black metal. But then again, if we move to vocal side, well, the guy who also knocks, who also does the vocals in Craft, one of the best Swedish black metal bands in my opinion, is also the vocalist here. And his very raw, kind of inhuman feral output is here top-notch quality once again. So that is definitely more on the black metal side. Now when it comes to riffs, then again, it's kind of like 50-50. Some of the riffs are clearly more black metal inclined, I could say, while some of the material is more death metalish. So all in all, this is basically like 50-50 kind of a black metal, death metal release. So I'm not exactly sure to which compartment of extreme metal people this should probably go more into. I find it quite enjoyable, but it's not clearly as great as Craft. These guys more or less have other bands, so Omnizide is kind of a side project in nature. That doesn't mean anything as such. I think it's quite good an album. This is their debut album, so already there is new material out. But since this was sent us late, hey, well, we shall talk about it. And if you have heard the newer material, you're probably already familiar with the style. So with that, you can pretty much judge whether or not you want to go to take a look at this one. But if you are one of those people who doesn't have a problem with death black metal hybrids, definitely give this one a go. Definitely has deserved it, even though I think that only the vocals are just the real killer stuff. The rest are kind of a potential, but could use some more kick in the nuts, so to speak, but worthwhile you're listening. So this time in Indie 5 we actually had quite a nice but quite a nice quality of albums. So be sure to check out those links provided in the description box, and as always, your comments are more than welcome. So until next week, take care.